Arizona, Los Angeles, Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, Lexington, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets. Don't go anywhere else. So I want to show you this. So I just showed you Kamala Harris got completely ratioed. The biggest ratio I've ever seen on Twitter for tweeting out that they're sending aid to Lebanon. And they could do it like that. Well, right now we've told you that FEMA announced that they're out of money. They don't have enough money for another hurricane, which is one's coming to Florida right now. But they're not going to call, but they somehow need Congress to come back in session to give more money to FEMA. But they don't need Congress to, but they don't need Congress to come back in session to send money to Lebanon.
Well, that's important.
They just do that. Like, why is it that the president and Kamala Harris can just send money to Lebanon, almost $500 million, while she says people in North Carolina have to apply for $700, and then they get turned down. They're all getting turned down for that money anyway.
Jimmy, can I make a cynical suggestion? What? It's almost like some people know that they're getting cleared out with new management, so they're going to loot every last bit they can and screw up the whole place. Like when I took over the store in Jersey City for Funko Land, and they just like looted everything because they knew it was over. Like that's what I think's happening. Because this is so in your face. It's like
this is so in your face, and so Ducey's going to ask.
Like when I took over the store in Jersey City, it's almost like some people know that they're getting cleared out with new management, so they're going to loot every last bit they can and screw up the whole place. Like when I took over the store in Jersey City for Funko Land, and they just like looted everything because they knew it was over. Like that's what I think's happening. Because this is so in your face. It's like
this is so in your face, and so Ducey's going to ask
nothing. That's what you're going to do. Nothing.
So here's this guy. Here's the guy. The only guy it seems like besides Simon Ateba, who they kicked out of the press room at the White House. The only person who ever pushes back against Karine Jean, whatever her name is.
Jean-Pierre.
Karine Jean-Pierre. And was an actual African from Africa. They got rid of him.
Get him out of there.
Unreal. Ducey asks Karine Jean-Pierre why the Biden-Harris administration can send immediate funding to Lebanon without Congress coming back, but they can't do the same thing for additional disaster funds to North Carolina. She calls this question misinformation. Let's watch this. So just to let you know, this is real. The Defense Department, with a stroke of the pen, has quietly codified its right to deploy a lethal force against its own citizens. Now, I always thought that was against the law. I'm going to show you it in a second, but I think it's called the Kami Positanis or something. I don't know how to say those.
Posse
Comitatus. That's it.
The Kami Posse. It should be that.
It should be that.
Posse Comitatus Act.
The Kami Positatus.
You know, like Kami Positano.
It's like Kami Positano over in Italy. This is not a drill. The reissue of Directive 5240.01 is a declaration of intent. The military is an entity designed for external enemies, now turns its gaze inward, poised to act with deadly precision when the inevitable clash of wills erupts. This is design. They anticipate conflict, and their anticipation, they prepare the battlefield, our streets, our homes, our lives, and they will strike with the full force of war machine built to crush foreign adversaries, but now aligned to dismantle internal dissent. Do you think I'm making this up?
No, I think it's what we do around the world, and they're just going to do it to us. So all the CIA handbook of how to screw up a country, they're going to use it on us now. That's all it is. It's real dark. When people see how dark it is, they're going to be like, wow, I can't believe we were doing that to other countries. They're going to do it to you now.
The facade of representative government crumbles as the state arms itself with, not just with weapons, but with the legal and bureaucratic tools to enact violence under the guise of order. What was once unthinkable is now written, approved, and ready to be executed. This is not preparation for defense. This is preparation for domination. Be warned, when the state moves in silence, it's because it expects resistance. Martial law was always the goal. So this is it. It's from the Department of Defense, the DoD Directive 5240.01, Department of Defense Intelligence and intelligence-related activities, and Defense Intelligence Component assistance to law enforcement agencies.
Finally.
And when is this from? This is from September 27th, 2024.
Well, January 6th, Jimmy, I'm sure it's justified.
Oh, January.
Look, I want to just clear up your misinformation, Jimmy. It doesn't say that in literal words. It just has a loophole where they can do that. And they probably won't, right? They're not going to use a legal loophole to do something crazy.
So here it is, all the levels of authority. And I'm going to highlight this for you right here. Assistance in responding with assets with potential for lethality. So what that means is they're going to kill the military will now has the right to kill American citizens. That's what that is.
Finally.
Assistance in responding with assets with potential for lethality or any situation in which it is reasonably foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force. So
assets is really scary.
Assets.
That could mean a lot of stuff. Assets means a lot.
Including death or serious bodily injury. It is also includes all support to civilian law enforcement officials in situations where a confrontation between civilian law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated.
Mm-hmm. So you know all those
So the reason why I played that is when I heard this, it brought to mind a few things, but brought to mind the music video that Kanye West did with Jay-Z, right? The song was called "No Church in the Wild." Well, it's not. I don't even call it a song. It was the garbage that they produced was called "No Church in the Wild," and it showed, young, angry men rebelling against a police force. And weird thing was it kept showing all these statutes of Greek. No, they weren't Greek. They were Roman statutes of their idols. And eventually the video ends with the law enforcement cracking down and overcoming the civilians and the people. And that's what came to mind, because it's like, they obviously they know this stuff is planned. And there it was. But it also made me think about the beginning of the movie Demolition Man, because I've often wondered, why does the beginning of that movie Demolition Man start with the police state squashing what was left of the rebels in Los Angeles? You see them in a lot of those movies, Escape from Los Angeles, Escape from Cleveland, things like that. I've just wondered what happens in those movies where, and maybe I'm missing it, maybe the answer is in the movies, but it wasn't in Demolition Man. They just start there. That, and the police force is so strong. And I started catching that with, what was it, the Biden relief for COVID-19. And the funds for that was supposed to go to, the ones that were most hit by COVID, the Black community and the Hispanic community. And come to find out, the money was rerouted from relief for the quote unquote Blacks and Hispanics, and it was given to police departments. And Biden urged that the police departments beef up. And this is during the time where they're telling you, defund the police. So it was like, watch one hand while the other hand is giving them the money. But that's what I was thinking about, and obviously we know if we're following the Most High's words, we're not supposed to be here for this or participate in this. I'm not saying that all of us won't, because I still remember when Lex Will was breaking down the book of Isaiah, he says that, Judah will whisper into the ear of Ephraim, and Ephraim will be his bow, and it makes me wonder, what all that will really entail. Well, will Ephraim go around, you know, um, doing, I don't know how to say it, like rescue missions. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. But either way, we're supposed to be looking for what's the land of Goshen. We're going to be going back to the land of Goshen, and only signs I found that that we're going to be there was I forget what book. I'll have to go back because I put in one of my videos. Is what it's supposed to be like the book of Micah or something like that. It says we'll be going back to the land of Goshen, and I forget the other one, but it says it's going to be filled with rams in the mountains, and they'll be there for sacrifice. So that's why I always looking for what land is most populated with rams and mountains, because one of those is going to be the land of Goshen. But when I heard this, that's what I thought of. It's here. It's here. The changing of the guard is here. And the time that they shown us in these movies is here, and they're not deviating from the plan. Like they were literally following through step by step. So it's gonna get ugly. So hopefully, you're staying in tune with the Most High. Well, first of all, and when I say that, I mean like you're trying to have a line of communication with them. You're doing the right things. You're detoxing, so your vessel is clean from parasites. Because that's the one. My goodness, that's one of the biggest things. Ever since Alexa really broke that down, and like I'm telling you, other people are watching this stuff because now I'm like hearing this one woman that's selling stuff for detox, and she claims she's a therapist that works. And when she specializes in detoxing her patients, is one of the things she does while they're seeing her. In the beginning, she was explaining, that a lot of the, how would you put it, the deviant sexual urges that people have, she feels they are directly correlated to parasites in your system. And I was like, if that's the case, that makes sense too. Because what would make you want to go boink a sheep? You see these signs around here, don't you mess with the sheep, And I'm like, who in their mind is looking at sheep and saying, I want that? You can't be. I don't know how would you even come across the urge to even think that was attractive? But then I was listening to another guy. He starts breaking down the 10 Commandments, and he was the guy that did the whole thing about there's something behind the Hoover Dam, but he starts talking about the 10 Commandments, and he's like, the 10 Commandments say, have no other God before me. That means I am the Most High God. I'm like, I had never in my life heard anyone ever break that down. And I'm not big upping. I'm just saying no one had ever broke that down and said it that way until I listened to Lex Will. And now these people out here saying it like they discovered it. And it's like, really? I'm like, so no, someone's watching, and that guy just might be an agent, because I don't see him in the comment section in Lex's videos ever. So, and there was just something else I wanted to show you because I brought it up in one of my videos and I found it. So here. All right, so this is on the Oxford English Dictionary website. And here we go. I looked up Baphomet, and this is the first one they had here. Listen to this.
A form of the name Muhammad used by medieval writers. B. Alleged name of the idol which the Templars were accused of worshipping. According to Labby Constant, quoted by Litra, this word was Kabbalistically formed by writing backward Tem. O. H. P. Ab. Abbreviation of Templi Omnium Hominum Pacis Abbas, Abbot, or Father of the Temple of Peace of all men.
So, Muhammad is another form of the name Baphomet? Really? So when they're sitting up there and these guys like David Icke, and I mean, I don't like the guy. I think he's an agent, you know. I mean, he's one of those guys that get you sitting there listening to the same stuff for years. And it's like you got to wake up and realize you're stuck listening to the same stuff, and he doesn't really break into anything new. And he's in on stuff because, I mean, I remember there was a video from 2014 where he talked about Russia would take back Ukraine. And I'll see if I can find it. He talked about that, and it didn't mean nothing to me at the time at all, you know. And he said the whole goal was to take Crimea. And now, what did they do? Russia took Crimea. And the rest of it's all just money laundering that's going on right now, you know. Wait, before we leave this, let's go over some of these two, just because the Muhammad thing was interesting, but let's not skip the rest of these.
Work is entitled, On the Goddess of Paphos as Represented on Ancient Monuments and on the Baphomet.
See, because the way I see it, this stuff is going to take you back to Babylon. But from Babylon, they're taking this stuff from Egypt, is the way I see it. You know, the whole Islamic religion it's borrowed from Egypt.
1848 Baphomet is a secret word ascribed to the Templars.
And the last one, just to be safe.
1855 The great stress is laid on the worship of Baphomet. The talismans, bowls, symbols, are even called Baphometic.
So, yep, that's everything. So, like I said, I thought that was interesting. The form. This is another name for Muhammad.
The eye of Sauron in the Lord of the Rings, the reptilian eye, the symbol of the negative force. And what happened in the massive and brilliant work of David Talbot in the Saturn myth is that at some point there was an enormous ejection of debris in an explosion out of Saturn, and it formed like a luminous crescent because it reflected light at certain points of the day. And this, as the Earth moved on its axis, when viewed from the Earth, this appeared to move around Saturn. And at different points, there are different symbolism for different points. But this was the one that really was the focus of Saturn symbolism, because this was when that luminous crescent was at its most luminous during the day. And so you find this symbol over and over in the ancient world. And this is a common recurring theme of Saturn. And this, the crescent symbolically, and the disk of the Saturn sun, the dwarf star. And so from this came the horned god, the horned goddess. There is Madonna in her Super Bowl performance at halftime, which was so Saturn in its symbolism, it was laughable, including the fiery eye. And in the movie version of The Lord of the Rings, you had the crescent holding the eye of Sauron. In Arabia, or you look at that of the symbol of Islam, the star, the sun, and the crescent. And the Arabian god Sin was symbolized as a crescent. Here you go. And I would suggest, from David Talbot's point of view, and I think he's right, that this represents the crescent of Saturn. This is the guy who started a satanic Saturn organization or secret society out of Germany called the Brotherhood of Saturn. And there's that symbol of the sun, look, with a dot. That's Saturn, not the sun that we have today, and the horned god. Molech, who is symbolized at Bohemian Grove as the owl, is also symbolized as the bull, and there's the horns with Saturn in the middle. And so you have the bull gods of Mesopotamia. And the winged goddesses in that state, this was often symbolized.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Because this be what I was trying to figure out when the Olympics, and they're making a big deal about the bull sitting at the end of that road, and the rider on that silver horse rides up to them and gets up and goes up to the steps to the statue, because here I am, I'm looking at symbolisms for bulls and old bull gods and goddesses. The twin bulls is what I was really finding was interesting. Was it Lani and Lani of Egypt and India? They had in India, they have another one where there's twin bulls, were the rulers or were important for them. So, but the answer to this might be the simplest one. I don't know, but I thought it was this was interesting. Just going back over this stuff again.
As the goddess.
Because think about this too, right? He connected to Islam. In Islam, they go around the black Mecca stone, right? And the Mecca stone, right, is supposed to have come from outer space. He claims in his works this was from Saturn. When he does this whole thing that it's all connected to Saturn, this is a Saturnalian worship. But then it just makes me sit back and think, okay, well, what about the other planets? What about the other ones, right? Nobody talks about Jupiter. Why? Nobody talks about Neptune, right? Or Uranus. We all hear about Mars and Venus, but what about the other ones? What are they hiding? And why they emphasize these so much? See what I'm saying? So I mean, just to just be to have like a dog whistle so much for this planet here, is it's quite telling.
With her holding the god, her arms around the god, or her wings around the god, and there is another version of that with the god Saturn and the crescent, and there it is on the Great Seal of the United States, exactly the same symbolism. There it is in the Air Force Special Operations Command. There it is in the symbol of the House of Windsor. There it is in the United Nations with the target on the world, very appropriately. There it is in the eagle of Rome. Here it is in Freemasonry. The flying disc of Egypt and other places is Saturn. And thus you have the Rosicrucian order, which connects into this network, using that flying disc symbolism. And so many of these logos carry the same symbolism. And in her Super Bowl performance, Madonna had the flying disc of Saturn. This is another ancient Saturn symbol because at some points, apparently it seemed to give off 4 very distinct lights, which became known as This is another ancient Saturn symbol because at some points, apparently it seemed to give off 4 very distinct lights, which became known as the 4 corners or the 4 rivers or the 4 ways. And so you find it, because of these bloodlines connecting into all these institutions, you find it in the Roman Church, you find it on the mace in the Houses of Parliament, you find it on the crown, you found it in the Celtic cross, and you find it in one of the major secret societies in the network, the House of Malta. It's known as the Maltese Cross. It was also symbolized, this Saturn symbol and crescent, as the flying god in his flying boat. This is Horus in his heavenly boat. This is why it's used in the boats used in Freemasonry. This is a Freemasonic building on the Isle of Wight, funnily enough. And that is massive. I'm not saying Annie Lennox knew it was, just let's do this, it'd be a good idea. But that was massively Saturn symbolism when you watched it play out. Then you've got this symbol of the horned god. Again, Saturn, Satan, as it also became known, which is you find with so many politicians. And Pat Robertson, this so-called Christian evangelist, yeah, okay. And talking of horns and horned gods, in astrology, Saturn is connected to Capricorn, and so one of the Saturn symbols is the goat. This again is the great Freemasonic historian Manly P. Hall, who said Pan, the goat god, was a composite creature, the upper part, with the exception of his horns, being human, and the lower part in the form of a goat. The god himself is a symbol of Saturn, because this planet is enthroned in Capricorn, whose emblem is a goat. That is what that is. Baphomet, worshipped by Satanists. It's a symbol of Saturn. And I'm going somewhere with this, because I'm going why they're focused on Saturn. So you have Baphomet, you have Beyonce, the wife of Jay-Z, with this big Baphomet ring, which is performing. You have Baphomet dressed Lady Gaga, Baphomet dressed Madonna, and you have Baroness Philippine de Rothschild from the wineries in France with a massive Baphomet necklace. And this is from the front cover of the Saturn myth, with the symbolism described of these lights that went off from Saturn at certain points, with the four main ones there. And there it is symbolized on one of these ancient tablets. And in St. Peter's Square, that is a mirror of the way that Saturn symbol looks. And there it is on the thing that he has his biscuit in, there, when he's doing his stuff. Now, this is inside the Mother Lodge of Freemasonry in Great Queen Street. Great Queen was the name of the Babylonian goddess in London, because this will become significant in part 3. This crescent holding the sphere also became symbolized as twin pillars. And so you have Saturn, there's the crescent being held up by the twin pillars. This is in one of the...
Oh, that was the Lord of the Rings too, right? Lord of the Rings Twin Towers.
Freemasonic centers of the world in London. Numerologically, digitally, Saturn is number 8, and this has led to symbolism of Saturn in terms of the spider. Thus you have, in Madonna's Super Bowl performance, the winged disc symbolized with the spider in the center. Now this is fascinating. This is called the magic square of Saturn. And it's also, not by coincidence, the magic square of Freemasonry. And it's magic because of this reason. If you go that way...
No, I didn't even mean to do this. Check this out. So he's going to do all this stuff to try to prove that the number 15 is connected to Saturn, right? Now look at this. I'm going to show you this. This is crazy. This is great. This is a quote by Madame Blavatsky. Now, I've been keeping this to myself because I don't want to sound nuts. Too late. But I was questioning, is the name of the dragon Satan? Like, we know the word Satan means adversary. But I know growing up in the Christian church, they try to teach you that Satan, Lucifer, the devil are all one and the same. And I've learned, no. They're all different individuals. Here's a quote from Madame Blavatsky that I screenshotted. And now it stands to prove that Satan, or the red flaming dragon, the Lord of Phosphorus, and there's one that here comes two, Lucifer, our light bearer, is in us. Look at this. This is where it gets crazy. So, the phosphorus, okay? How come it's the number 15? The chemical element of Entamus, however you pronounce that, number 15. Coincidence, I know, but I just thought that was funny that there is when he's showing, where was it?
All the numbers in
A red planet.